Minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle in my $20,000 dress, I got a text message. "I'm sorry. I've decided to leave with Serafina." That single betrayal text instantly turned my dream wedding into a viral collapse. My name is Alara Vance, I'm 35, and today I run a billion-dollar company, but the real story isn't the wealth I gained. It's the peace I had to fight a corporate war to finally earn. I still think about how dumb I was. I was the top salesperson at Neiman Marcus. I was proud of that. My job was helping the demanding rich people, and I was good at it. Serafina Thorne was one of the worst. VIP client, daughter of a magnate. I spent weeks tracking down this special custom order handbag for her. It was a huge deal. I worked so hard to impress her. I thought I was just being a professional, but really, I was just setting myself up. That excellence, that dedication to making her happy, was the trap she used to watch me. If you know what it's like to feel that stupid, please just hit the subscribe button. Tell me in the comments where you're connecting with this. I need to know I'm not talking to myself. We were leaving the store. Ethan was with me. He worked at Zenith Global Consulting, a company her father's firm used. Serafina saw us together. She came right up to us. She looked at Ethan and got this intense, sudden interest in his work. She asked him for a business card. I stood there, so proud, smiling like an idiot. I was thinking, wow, he's so smart, even a VIP wants to work with him. I didn't see the way her eyes lingered, just the surface. Jenna, my coworker, was right later about her being a collector of men. Serafina just smiled at me. I handed her my card, too, completely blind. I didn't know I was handing her the tools to blow up my life. It was the first time I gave my future away. That night, we were so happy. We were planning our future, talking about the wedding, arguing playfully about which flowers to pick. I felt safe, totally secure. Ethan got a text from Serafina while we were talking. He looked at it and his face lit up. He said he was meeting with her the next day. It was about a massive opportunity. That's exactly what he called it. He was so excited about that chance to work with the Thorne Company. He saw money and power. I saw us finally having enough savings to take care of my mother, to maybe get her better insurance. He was chasing a deal. I was dreaming of her favorite soup warming my mother's hands. It's awful, but that business text made me feel closer to him than ever. Then I went back to work. I was talking to Jenna in the break room, telling her how excited Ethan was. That's when she dropped the bomb. She was gossiping, but it felt cold and real. Jenna said Serafina was a collector of men, that she especially liked taking men from other women. I got angry. I told Jenna she was dramatic. I stood up for Ethan and Serafina, saying it was just a massive work opportunity. I didn't want to believe it. It was easier to think Jenna was just jealous. I hated myself later for dismissing her. That was the clearest warning I got, but I was so focused on the wedding dress and the flowers that I just pushed it away. I didn't want my perfect future ruined by ugly gossip. A few days later, I was walking by a lounge in Soho. I saw them through the window. It was Serafina and Ethan. I stopped dead right on the sidewalk. My heart started pounding so hard it hurt. Serafina had her hand resting right on Ethan's arm. It wasn't just a brush. It was intimate. Jenna's words about her being a collector of men flashed in my head. The smile left my face. I felt dizzy, like the whole street was tilting. I wanted to run in there and scream, but I just stood there, watching my fiancé being stolen right in front of me. I knew then that the gossip wasn't just gossip. It was the truth. They finally saw me outside. Ethan instantly pulled his arm away from Serafina like she was on fire. He rushed out. He was sweating and his eyes looked guilty. He tried to tell me it was nothing, just business papers they were discussing. He said their hands accidentally brushed. I knew he was lying. Serafina walked out right behind him. She was totally calm. She just stood there with this self-assured smile, looking right through me. She made some little comment that didn't make sense, but it disturbed me deeply. Later, I did confront Ethan, but I forced myself to believe his stupid lie about their hands brushing. I was desperate to keep my future and the hope of making my mother her favorite soup. It was easier to pretend than to admit I was already losing everything. As the wedding day got closer, the tension was terrible. Ethan was distant. He was impossible to reach. He always said it was a huge project for the Thorn Company, that he was working late, that the opportunity was too big to mess up. I wanted to believe him. I kept repeating in my head, "It's just work stress, he loves me." I was so focused on the details. The dress, the seating chart, the cake. I ignored the growing, freezing quiet from him. I just kept pushing my doubt down. I attributed his absence that morning to the stress, too. I kept my phone clutched in my hand, waiting for the text that he was on his way, trying to drown out the doubt with hope. I didn't realize he wasn't just distant. He was gone already. I was in my dressing room minutes before the ceremony. The whole place was elegant, beautiful, just like the wedding planner promised. I was standing there, trying to breathe. My phone buzzed in my hand. It was Ethan. I thought it was finally him saying he was here. I opened it and the words hit me. "Alara, I'm sorry. I've decided to leave with Serafina." That was all it said. Everything stopped. The beautiful room, the music, the people outside. It all just vanished. My life shattered right there, faster than glass. I felt the elegant wedding venue instantly transform into a scene of ruin. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a letter. It was a single cold text message that ruined everything. I couldn't move. I couldn't even cry yet. My maid of honor ran in, crying, trying to ask me what was wrong. Before I could even process the text, Ethan's coworker, Ben, burst into the room. He looked terrible. He didn't even know about the text. He told me Ethan wouldn't be showing up. He said Ethan had resigned the day before. He resigned to go work for Serafina's father's company. That was the crushing blow. It confirmed everything. It wasn't just some messy, last-minute emotional thing. It was planned. He had sold our future for a job and a rich girl. The massive opportunity he was so excited about was actually a deal to betray me. It made the air feel thin. I finally started shaking. That's when I looked back at the screen. Ethan's text had an attachment. It was a photo. It showed Ethan and Serafina together in some fancy airport VIP lounge. They had business class tickets to Paris on the table. And there was a massive diamond ring sparkling on Serafina's finger. It was huge. That photo wasn't just a private text. It was a public announcement. It was meant to humiliate me. Serafina didn't just want Ethan. She wanted everyone to see her take him. I was supposed to be walking down the aisle, but they were already halfway to Europe, celebrating the destruction of my wedding. I felt sick. That picture, that cold, hard evidence, was the final, devastating proof. My dad had to be the one to cancel the wedding. I couldn't move, couldn't talk. He went out there and told everyone the groom wasn't coming. I could hear the immediate rush of whispers. Worse than the whispers, I heard the faint clicking of phone cameras. People were recording it. My humiliation was a performance for them. My father helped me out through the back door, away from the crowd. I managed to get into the car, still in my huge white dress. The car door shut. That's when I finally collapsed. The tears came, hot and messy. My beautiful, perfect dream day was over. It was a nightmare, and I knew everyone already had the video. I was home hiding, but the trauma didn't stay private. The video of me collapsing went everywhere. It went viral online instantly. Tens of thousands of people watched it. They weren't sympathetic. They mocked me. They wrote cruel comments, saying I was abandoned because I wasn't rich enough for Ethan's new life with Serafina. They said I was lower class. My heartbreak was a joke to them, a public spectacle. The shame was suffocating. I couldn't stop seeing their words pop up on my phone. My personal nightmare became a global piece of entertainment. I felt like I was wearing a sign that said, "Failure." It was terrible. A few days after the video went viral, I saw Serafina's post. She wasn't just in Paris. She had to rub it in my face. It was another picture of them, looking totally perfect and happy. Her caption was simple, just 2 words, "My love." It was a final, calculated attack. She wanted to make sure I knew he was hers and that she was enjoying my misery. It wasn't enough to take him. She had to twist the knife. Seeing that post drove a cold nail into my chest. It confirmed that she wasn't just a homewrecker. She was cruel. That picture made the mockery online 10 times worse. I knew then that she wasn't just a rival for a man, but an enemy who actively enjoyed my pain. A week went by, and I tried to go back to my job at Neiman Marcus. I needed the money. But the moment I walked onto the sales floor, the whispers started. I heard my name and then I heard the word wedding. Everyone was looking at me. Some people were pretending to look away, giving me pity. But the worst part was the phone cameras. People were trying to take sneaky pictures of me, the viral bride. I couldn't breathe under all those eyes. I felt like I was back in the dressing room again. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand the public shame. I walked straight to the manager's office and I resigned. Just like that, I lost my home, my man, and my career. I felt like I had nothing left. After I quit, I just went home and locked the door. I pulled the curtains shut. I stayed in my apartment for 2 weeks straight. I cut off my phone. I didn't answer calls or texts. I didn't talk to anyone. I just sat in the darkness, playing the whole thing over and over. I didn't blame Ethan anymore. I blamed myself. I kept thinking, was I unlovable? Was I not pretty enough? Was Serafina just better than me? I felt like a ghost in my own apartment. The shame was a physical weight on my chest. I couldn't stop wondering why I wasn't enough to keep him. I became totally convinced that I was the failure in the whole situation. I finally ran out of food. I was starving, but I couldn't face the outside world. I wrapped a scarf around my head, pulled a hat low, and hurried to a nearby convenience store. I tried to look like no one, hiding from everyone. But it didn't work. As I was walking out, a man stopped me. He said my name. It was Robert Sterling. He was a television shopping producer. I tried to pull away, hoping he didn't recognize the viral bride. But he did. He looked at me, this unemployed mess in a dark hat, and he told me I had talent. He told me I hadn't fallen. He said, "You've just sat down to rest for a moment." It was the first kind word I'd heard in weeks. Robert offered me a new job at his company, ShopStream. He said he saw my skills when I was at Neiman Marcus. He told me I could sell anything. I was just staring at him. Then he gave me the reason that finally made me listen. He told me to use the job to prove them wrong. He looked right at me and he said, "Success is the ultimate revenge." That idea hit me hard. Not healing, not moving on, but revenge. The thought of Serafina and Ethan watching me succeed, watching me get rich without them, was suddenly a lifeline. It was a hateful kind of motivation, but it pulled me up out of the darkness. He handed me his card, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a terrible, fiery spark of purpose. I told Robert I'd meet him. I tentatively agreed because I couldn't stand being a failure anymore. But the shame was still right under my skin. I went to a cafe to wait for him. I heard 2 people at the next table talking. They were laughing and mentioned the failed wedding. It hit me like a physical blow. The shame flooded back. My hands started shaking so bad. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I realized I was supposed to go on live TV, where everyone could see me and talk about me. The idea of all those cameras, all those eyes, watching me again sent me into a panic. I couldn't do it. I just ran out of the cafe. I threw Robert's business card into the nearest trash can. I went home and locked the door again. I had almost thrown away my only chance. I went back into my dark apartment, feeling defeated again. But then the phone rang. It was my dad. He told me my mother had a severe stroke. She needed surgery. Immediate surgery. The cost was $30,000. I didn't have $30, let alone $30,000. I was unemployed and broken. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about saving her. The money wasn't a possibility. It was an urgent crisis. Suddenly, the shame of being on TV meant nothing next to the fear of losing my mother. All I could think about was getting her the surgery so I could go home and make her favorite soup again. That simple need to save her life was the only thing that mattered. I ran out of my apartment, thinking only of the money. I had to get the money. I ran to the cafe trash can where I threw it earlier. It was disgusting. I dug through the garbage until my fingers closed around something papery. It was Robert Sterling's card. It was crumpled and dirty, but the number was still visible. That little piece of paper, covered in coffee grounds, was my last hope. I was desperate and running out of time. I didn't care about the cameras or the humiliation anymore. I just cared about that $30,000. I pulled the card out, wiping it on my dress, and I called him immediately. It was the lowest I had ever been. Calling a strange man from a trash can to beg for a job I was terrified to take, but I didn't have a choice. Robert was great. He didn't even mention that I stood him up. He just focused on getting me ready for my debut, a 40-minute live show selling a multifunction pressure cooker. I took all my shame and all my anger at Ethan and Serafina and threw it into practicing. I memorized the script perfectly. I was determined to prove them all wrong. I channeled my rage, but when we did the live rehearsal, I completely froze. I was so rigid. I started stammering over every single word. I was thinking, I can sell a handbag for $20,000, but I can't even sell a cooker. It was a total disaster. I couldn't perform. I was good at selling luxury items face to face, but the camera and the idea of thousands of eyes watching me broke my concentration every single time. The day of the live broadcast came. I was terrified. Before the show, I held the pressure cooker trying to focus. I remember the faint metallic smell of the empty appliance. It felt cold in my hands. I told myself, this is for my mother. This is for the $30,000. I started the show. 10 minutes in, it all went wrong. I looked at the camera, and I completely blanked. The script, the lines, the features of the cooker, it all just disappeared from my mind. I stood there, frozen, staring right into the lens. My worst fear came true. I was on live television, humiliated and speechless. I confirmed all my deepest fears of failure right there for everyone to see. I just stood there, burning with shame. Then something inside me broke. I stopped trying to remember the script. I started talking, and the words just tumbled out. It was raw. I confessed everything to the camera. How nervous I was, how terrified I was of being judged, and why I needed that money. I told them about my mother and her surgery. I said all I really wanted to do was use this cooker to make her favorite soup again. It wasn't planned. It was just the truth. And it worked. The phone lines jammed instantly. I found out later that the multi-cooker sold out in just 8 minutes. An unprecedented 8 minutes. By finally telling the truth, I found my voice. Suddenly, I was the multi-cooker queen. My success was everywhere. It was amazing, but I was still fueled by that angry need to get revenge. I imagined Ethan reading about me. I imagined Serafina hearing my name. And they did. I heard through some people that the news of my big sellout show reached them while they were still in Paris. Serafina started feeling uneasy. Me finding my voice made her uncomfortable. My success wasn't small anymore. It was big enough to reach across the ocean and touch them. I loved that. It felt like I was finally hitting back, not with words, but with cold, hard proof that I was better off without him and without her. My hateful plan was finally working. Robert really stepped up after that. He became my mentor. He shared his own story with me about how he had been betrayed in his career too. He told me he knew exactly what I was feeling, that cold fire of anger. He said, "Success is the best revenge. You have talent. Develop it." That phrase became my code. I didn't think about anything else. It wasn't about saving my mother anymore. The initial money was covered. Now it was only about proving Robert right and making Serafina pay for everything. I took his advice and started training harder than ever. I was building myself up, not for me, but to hit back. That hateful drive gave me the power I needed to succeed. I became obsessed with my work. I learned how to connect with the audience, but I did it my own way. It was the Heiress style, Robert called it, just being honest and practical. I became the #1 host. Then I started a new segment called Heiress Selection. I used it to spotlight small businesses that couldn't get on TV otherwise. My first one was an elderly woman who sold artisanal spice blends to support her orphaned grandkids. We sold out a whole year's worth of her stock in less than 10 minutes. When I saw her crying with happiness, something shifted. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about helping people. I realized my success wasn't just my own. It was about shared prosperity. That feeling was stronger and cleaner than the anger I had been using. 5 years went by fast. I turned into a CEO. I started my own company, Heiress Company. My first big hit was a cosmetics line called Cosmetics for Traders. The slogan I used was, "Even if they betray you, don't let your skin." It was personal, of course. My company grew huge, worth over $100 million. I won awards. I had the success I wanted, the success that was supposed to be my perfect revenge on Ethan and Serafina, but it didn't feel like victory. I had everything, but I felt this deep, constant, profound emptiness. The truth was, my success was built on hate, and that hate had just chained me to my past. I realized the only person I was still hurting was myself. My emptiness was about to get filled with fire again, but not the good kind. Serafina saw my success. She saw Ethan watching my videos. It wounded her pride. She had to destroy me. She went to her powerful father, Mr. Thorne. He launched a full-scale corporate attack, a blitzkrieg, to wipe out Heiress Company. Suddenly, the trolls were back, only worse. They were huge campaigns spreading fake news and manipulated photos about me being a gold digger. My sales dropped by 30% almost overnight. Then the internal stuff started. My marketing chief, someone I trusted, was bribed. He went to work for Thorne's company, taking all my trade secrets with him. Serafina was right. She wasn't just a collector of men. She was a collector of destruction, and I was her target again. It kept getting worse. Mr. Thorne used his massive power to squeeze my business everywhere. Suppliers started canceling contracts. Department stores dropped my cosmetics line. He was blocking me from all the major places. Then came the real blow. Mr. Thorne pressured ShopStream, my platform, my home, to ban me from ever appearing on TV again. They blacklisted me. That took away my main way to talk to my customers. And because Robert stayed loyal to me, because he wouldn't turn his back, they fired him. My mentor, the man who gave me the crumpled business card and my second chance, was out of a job because of me. My company was collapsing. The emptiness I felt before was being replaced by a horrible, burning fear. I felt totally powerless. Everything was crashing down. My employees were leaving. Sales were plummeting. And then the absolute worst thing happened. Robert had a stress-induced stroke. He collapsed. I rushed to the hospital. His wife was there, and she was cold. She looked right at me and said it was my fault. She blamed me for what happened to Robert, saying my corporate war dragged him down. She wasn't wrong. I felt it like a physical weight. I was completely alone again. The guilt was crushing me. I couldn't bear that my fight for revenge had hurt the one person who truly believed in me. I went from being the betrayed to the betrayer. It was a terrible, lonely cycle of pain. Mr. Thorne didn't wait. He saw his chance while I was crushed with guilt. He sent me an ultimatum, a contract. He said I had to sell Heiress Company for only 1/10 of what it was worth. It was robbery, but the contract had one more special clause. It said I would be permanently barred from working in the cosmetic or distribution industry for 10 years. It was total annihilation. It wasn't just about taking my company. It was about taking my future, my identity, everything I had rebuilt after Ethan left. I was so exhausted and defeated. I looked at the contract, ready to sign. I felt like I had to, just to stop the bleeding and save the few employees who hadn't left yet. I felt like I had nothing left to fight with. I held the pen over the contract. This was it. I was signing away my whole life. Just then, I heard a lot of noise downstairs. I went to the building lobby, thinking it was Mr. Thorne's people. But it wasn't. It was an incredible sight. Over 30 people were waiting for me. They were the owners of the small businesses I had featured on Heiress selection. They came to beg me not to give up. They told me I had saved their companies and their lives. They had secretly pooled $10 million for me to fight Mr. Thorne. I read the letters from my employees and those owners. I suddenly saw everything clearly. All the money, all the empire. What I built wasn't vengeance. It was giving people opportunity. That feeling was my true success, and it gave me my fight back. That realization changed everything in 1 second. It was like I woke up. I looked at the annihilation contract in my hand. That paper was designed to break me, but it couldn't. Not anymore. Because I wasn't fighting for hate, I was fighting for all those people. Robert's wife had blamed me for hurting him, but these people were telling me I had helped them. I took the pen and I threw it across the room. I held up Mr. Thorne's terrible contract. I didn't say a word. I just ripped it straight down the middle, then again and again. I shredded that piece of paper. It felt amazing. I had $10 million and 100 people standing behind me. I wasn't defeated. I was ready to fight them with my true purpose, giving people opportunity. That was the only victory that mattered. The moment I ripped up that contract, everything changed again. The small business owners held a press conference right away and shut down all the fake news Mr. Thorne was spreading. Robert even woke up from his stroke, and his first words to me were that true revenge is dignity. Then we got help. An amazing lawyer offered to work for free. They had an informant inside Thorne's office. That person gave us all the evidence we needed of the conspiracy. Our counterattack was fast. Federal agents raided Mr. Thorne's headquarters. They arrested him for everything he did. And Serafina? She was arrested too, for coercion. I saw the video. She looked pitiful, being dragged away in handcuffs. The Thorne empire was finally collapsing. Justice didn't feel like revenge. It felt like a clean slate. A Lara company recovered fast. The support was incredible. I went back to TV shopping, focusing on helping people. 3 years later, we went public on the New York Stock Exchange with a $1 billion valuation. I stood on the stage giving a speech. I told everyone my beginning was a betrayal, but my end was a thank you for the failure that forced me to grow. As I left the stock exchange, a middle-aged valet opened the car door for me. I looked up. It was Ethan. He was haggard, working this humble job. Serafina had tossed him after he was useless to the Thorne company. I looked at him and I didn't feel rage or sadness. I just felt calm. I simply said, "Thank you." As the car drove away, I thought, "Thank you, Ethan, for leaving me." I was finally free. My true victory wasn't the $1 billion. It was the peace.